Okay, boys and girls, welcome back. In this video, we're going to continue with our mission to build out this Bing scraper. This is video 3 of the series. If you haven't already done so, please watch part 1 and 2 and also watch some of the other videos on the channel so you've got some basic understanding of using BAS or Browser Automation Studio. If you haven't already done so, then check out the website, thebotempire.com. The link is in the description to look at the course and all the free videos. And if you need a script or bot made or custom scripts made, then I'm your man. Get all the details on the site. And also, please come and say hello. Join us on the Discord channel so you can ask all your questions and get any help with bots that you need. The link again is in the description. Okay, with that all being said, let's get on with today's video. Just another point, actually, will this script be available for download? I've been asked several times. The answer is yes. From the next video, from part 4, each step that we take, the script will be available. The link will be in the description. I just want to get the core of the bot made first, and then it will be available. What's going to be added to the bot? I've had about 12 different messages with different suggestions. We're going to add it so that ads, Bing ads, and organic searches can be selected, so you can either save all the ads if you're doing something with Bing ads, and also organic searches can be saved. You can either pick one or the other. The other question I'm getting a lot is this going to be multi-thread? Yes, we've already implemented the use of threads. I just haven't shown you how that works, which I will be doing in later videos. The other question I've asked is, can we scrape emails from each one of the site? We're going to get into that probably if more people want that. So guys, just leave a comment in the description, or like a lot of you have been already, message me on Discord and tell me what you'd like to see and what you'd like to learn. Okay guys, as you can probably see, it's 10 to 6. I've had a little play around with the bot and been thinking about the best way to demonstrate what I want to show you. So I've come up with a method. It might not be the cleanest way to do things, but it's going to teach you some new skills, and it does work just fine, this method. What we're adding to the bot now is that so far we have a bot that goes to Bing. It's able to type in a keyword from a keyword list that we input, okay, and then it's scraping the first page of the results of the keyword that we've inputted. We're then saving it to a nice little database. I've just cleaned out the database, but we're saving the URL and we're saving the keyword that it was scraped from, okay. But here's the thing that we need to address now. Is that sometimes, most of the time, you want to scrape more than just the first page. So we need to include a way that people can scrape more than the front page. Maybe they want to scrape the first 10 pages for a set keyword, okay? So that's what we're going to do. I've already implemented it into the bot because I wanted, like I said, to find a way that shows you some new skills and gets the job done. So I had a little play around for the last half an hour before I shot this video. So I just want to show you what I've included. So we have a new resource called how many pages to scrape, and it's a fixed integer or a fixed number, and they can input a value from, in this case, minimum 1 to 20. Okay, so the minimum value is 1, maximum is 20. You can change that to whatever you want. That's the only thing that I've included when it comes to resources. So I'm going to hit record. Actually, I'm going to clear the log. Then I'm going to hit record. And then for threads, I've just put 1 amount of keywords to scrape 1. If I was allowed 2, I could just put 1. It goes. List of keywords is the same list that we've been using, and amount of pages to scrape, I've set it to 3. Okay, so let's go on to the script and show you what I've added from last time. Okay, the first thing that you may have noticed is I've set a variable. Now, if you recall from previous videos, that a variable is just a placeholder to store information in. So I've set a variable, and how I did that is I went to script logic, and there's an option set variable. So I went to set variable, and I've called the variable page counter. So it's going to hold, as you probably guess, the page that we're currently on. So I've set that to 1. Now, as standard, something you should know is when you're counting something from a list, like the number of items on the list, or you're using a counter like we are now, as standard, unless you tell the bot anything different, in program, this isn't just BAS. This is if you're writing a script in Python, if you're using JavaScript, whatever the case, computers count from 0. So the first element on the list would be 0, or the first number, so to speak, would be 0. So I'm just setting the page counter to 1 to represent that we're on the front page. So we're making a variable called page counter, and what it holds, what the variable, what's inside that is the number 1. As standard, this is set to string. Now, if you had string and you had 1, BAS luckily still knows what you're talking about, so the bot would still work. But just to get into good habits, come over to where it says string and then change that to int, which represents integer, which means number, and 1. So we now have a variable called page counter, and within that variable page counter is the number 1. Okay, now the other thing that I've changed is, what's the first thing that I should show you that's been changed? Okay, so what happens, this is the best way to show you, is that we set a variable now called page counter 1. We run through our script just as we've done before. So we've gone to Bing, okay, and we start our loop, if you recall, and we scrape all the links that are not ads from the page. Then we're cleaning the list to get rid of any of the HTML elements, because the method that I've shown you, unfortunately, also scrapes some of the HTML elements. So we clean that up. This is probably not the best way to scrape the data, but it's a great way for you to learn how to do other things, like you've seen how to clean the information that comes back. So when I say it's not the best way, it's still a method that works absolutely fine. So I'm not trying to say that it's a crappy method that won't work and will break. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to explain to you that there's always more than one way, or at least a vast majority of the time, there's more than one way to do a process. So the way that you do things may be different to how a different programmer does things. And that's why, as a rule, and I haven't been doing this in this script, but as a rule, what you should do is for each item, especially true if you're going to share this script with someone else to work on, is when you click on any item, I think I've shown you this previously, is edit task. It says task description. You could put this goes to bing.com. You can even color code it. So you should do that if you're going to share this. And not just that, actually, if your script is going to be large, then it's good for your own notes, because trust me, well, for me, who has a memory like a sieve sometimes, if you're working on several scripts like I do, obviously I do client work and my own scripts as well, then when you come back to a script, then you might be like, what the hell is this? You might be might not understand what some of the functions do. You might forget what they are. So if you do this, it makes things a lot easier to remember, to recall what the aim of the bot was in the first place and what each item does. So that's a really good tip. So we do our usual stuff, okay, and what I've done, and I'm going to show you this in action, so don't worry. So once it's added the items to the database, and that's where we left off previously. So once it's done that, it's going to come here and it's going to start a while logic, a while statement. Okay, now where you can find the while statement is again in the script logic. There's a while option, and I've covered in the course, we do a whole section on script logic, and also there's a free video. I think check out the other videos in the YouTube channel, and it's definitely on the website under the free videos, is about while statements, if statements, I think, and while statements are covered. Okay, what a while statement does is, while something is true, continue to do the action, and when it's not true, okay, then don't run through the loop anymore. So let me show you in a better example with the example we're using right now. So once we have inserted all the records into the database where we left off, it's going to come down here and it's going to run this while statement. And this while statement, let me just make another while statement down here. So if I produce a while statement, you put the expression or what you need to check is true before it continuing. So if I just leave it blank, oh, you can't. I'm just gonna put anything in. Okay, hit OK. What will happen is BAS will make the statement, and then underneath it will do a log function for you and put the amount of times that this is run. So anything that you put in between these two, okay, is part of the while statement, will run as part of that. Okay, so just want to show that. I'm just going to delete that now. Okay, so I made one, and what the logic is or what it's checking is while page counter. Okay, so remember the variable I made called page counter. While that number is under, so we use the backward arrow for that, so under, or the left pointing arrow. While that number, page counter, is under the resource that we've made, how many pages to scrape, then run this. So once the data has been scraped from the it's too early. From the front page of the results, it's going to run this while statement and say, hey, is the page number counter under the resource that we put how many pages to scrape? If it is, if that is true, then run these blocks underneath. Okay, if not, then the bot will finish. It will just come down to here and it'll be finished. So while the counter that we made is under, while that number is under the amount of number that we put in here, how many pages to scrape, then run that block of code. Okay, so that makes sure that the bot will only run the amount of pages that we want to scrape. So it's going to scrape all the data, it's going to clean the data, put the information into the database, then it's going to have the page count is going to be on 1. So is that number under the number that we put into the resource, which was 3 in this case? Yes, it is. So then what it's going to do is click on the arrow on the Bing page, which I'm going to show you in a second. It's going to click on the arrow that moves to page 2 in this case, and then it's going to wait for the page to fully load, and it's going to increase that variable that we made by 1. So how you do that is you come to your script logic again. Instead of setting the variable, we increase the variable here. And what is the name of the variable that we want to increase? Well, it's called page counter here. So it's going to increase that number by 1. So I've already done that. So increase the number by 1. Then it's going to log out. What's it going to log? Current page number. And then I'm going to log out the variable page counter. So it's going to show on the screen what page we're on. And this is the main thing I want to show you. What we could have done, I should say, is we could have made the while statement from here and include all this information we've already done. Okay, that would have been one way to do it. But I'm going to show you this method because I want to teach you a new skill. And for me, it's a good way to do things as well. It's not the only way. But so we increase the page counter, we log out what the page number is. Then I've used this move to label thing, and what this does, and this is great, I use this all the time, you're able to move from one part of the script back to or forward to another part of the script, like jump. So you can jump to any place in the script you want to go. So how did I do this? If you go, again, we're using this toolbox a lot, script logic, and you use the it's called set label. That's it, set label. You can call the label anything that you want. I've called it start of loop used after scraping a page, but call it anything that makes sense to you. Okay, so what I'm doing is in the while statement is clicking on the arrow on the screen, which I'll show you in a minute, waiting for the page to load. So it's clicking the arrow to go on the Bing page to go to page 2, increase our variable counter by 1 called page counter, log out what page number we're on, and then, okay, bot, now move to the label called start of loop used after scraping the page. So it gives you a great visual representation too. So by doing this, we've clicked on the arrow to go to page 2. So we've loaded page 2, and then we're saying, hey, go back up to here, which is the start of the loop again, which is scraping all the data from the page. So we're on page 2 now. We're going to scrape all the data. We're going to clean up the data, put it into the database, and then we're going to check again. We're going to say, well, is the page counter number under the number of pages that we want to scrape, our resource number? Yes, okay. Then click the button again, the button on the page of the Bing page to go to the next page. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Go to the next page on Bing, wait for the page to load, increase the page counter again, okay, show what page number we're on, and then go all the way back up here again, okay, and then start the loop again. It's going to run through, and then again it's going to check now what page number would we be on now. Number 3. Is that under the number of pages that we've told the bot to scrape? No, it's now equal to. Okay, so now it's equal to. It's not going to run this block of code. It's just going to come out here and finish. So what I could do, instead of having it blank, I could, again, script logic that's in there, is we could end the scripts there by using the it's called success. So that means finish that run. Okay, we could put any message in here. You don't have to have a message, but we could have something. This is done. I won't include it for now because I want to show you the bot running in this mode, in test mode. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. I know it's quite a lot to take in. How we make this move, by the way, is again, it's in the script logic. We use the option, I think it's move to label. So, and then once you've used that, it will show you all the labels you've created. I've only got one, so I called it start of loop used after scraping a page. So once you put that in, a big arrow will show you the route it's going to take. So visually, it's easy to visualize. You can see what's happening. So it comes here, goes all the way back to the start of the loop. So you can put this anywhere. You can put this here, put this here, but obviously I want it at the start of the loop. Okay, so just one more time, and then we're going to actually run through it so you can see. Is at the start of the script, we're setting a new variable called page counter, which is going to count the page that we're on. It's going to do our usual stuff that we were already doing. It's going to load Bing. It's going to load in the keyword. Okay, it's going to enter the keyword onto the page and press enter. Okay, we set a label so that we're able to jump back here whenever we want, and that label is called start of loop, used after scraping a page. Then we run our loop as we've done in the previous video, come through here, scrape everything that's on the front page, clean up the front page, and then afterwards, after we've inserted the record, we have a while statement, and we're checking whether the page counter we created is less than the resource that we made of how many pages we want to scrape. So if we would have put 10 when we were loading the bot up into the how many pages we want to scrape, this will keep going till that variable called page counter is equal to 10. Okay, but while they're not the same, while page counter is under the number of pages we want to scrape, it's going to click on the next page option on the Bing page. It's going to wait for the page to load. It's going to increase that variable, that page counter, by 1. So we're now on page 2. It's going to tell us, it's going to log out here what page number we're on, and then it's going to move the bot back up to the scraper and do the same, but this time we're on page 2 and we're going to scrape the information. So let's run through that quickly. Okay, so we put in the keyword, help with back pain. Load the page. Let me just make this bigger. Let's go. Okay, scrape that data and clean it. This was all done in the previous video, so watch them if you haven't already done so. Okay. I have to run through this a few times. I'm using the option here, which is go to each individual block. The green one, as I've mentioned before, runs it without stopping. This one, you have to click each option. This is so you can debug your bot. I think there's only about 7 guys, so don't worry. Just don't want to miss it though. Okay, so we scraped all the organic items on there. We've inserted it into our database, so it checked. So what's the page counter number? Well, it was on 1 at the moment. Is that under the number we put into our resource? Yes, which is 3. So it's going to click this. This is what I want to show you, this, the arrow. So all I did to make that happen is when I got here, when I made the loop, just click the arrow, and I used the click on element, not the move and click, because Bing's not too fussy about human emulation. They let things slide. So it depends on the site you're working with. If you're using social media sites, they're really hot on human emulation. So you need to act human. So the mouse movement across the screen is really important. But for Bing scraping, I just used the click on element. Okay. And for this, as I've taught you before, is you want to use something preferably without a number within the CSS or the match, because that can be changed at any time. So this one was great to use because that's not really likely to change. And then what I wanted to teach you as well, as default, this is set to default, which means that it's going to try and find this arrow on the screen or the element we're working with. If it can't, it's going to fail, okay? But the time it takes to fail, it's going to keep checking till the default time, and the default time is really high. So you can set, if you hover your mouse where it says default, it says the maximum time to perform an action. You can change this. So I'm just going to give it 10 seconds. In other words, try and find this element. If you can't find it within 10 seconds, that's a fail. Include it in the tally. How many fails allowed, add 1 to that. So fail if you can't find this element. You can uncheck this box, which is useful if you're trying to scrape data and sometimes it's there, it may or may not be there. And if it's not there, it's not a problem for your script, just continue anyway. So for this, we want to make sure it's there. I'm going to click this option in this case though, disable mouse emulation, because we don't need to see the mouse slowly move across and click the item. We find we just pressing it without mouse movement, like I previously mentioned. Hit OK, and I've obviously got 2 of these now, so I'm just going to delete one, and you'll see we've moved to page 2. And then what I've used is the option under waiters, wait for full page load. That's just to make sure all the new URLs are loaded onto the page. Then I've come to, again, our script logic toolbox, and I've put increase variable, name a variable to increase, which is our page counter, and then increase it by 1. Then log that out, that information out to our log, so we're able to see what page we're on. Then it's going to move all the way back up here now that we're on page 2 and go through the scraping process again. And then it's going to go back around again. And then once this is checked and the page counter is equal to 3, overall equal, but it will stop when it's equal to 3. So once it's done 3 pages, this will exit and we'll be done with that keyword, and it will move on to the next. So I hope that makes some sense. Let's exit, let's save. Let's clean our database out so we can run this from scratch. Database manager, delete all data. Hit yes. Okay, so we've got a clean database. Let's clean the log. Let's cross our fingers and run. I've got 1 thread, 1 keyword to scrape, 1 fail allowed. This is our list of keywords that we've made previously. How many pages to scrape? I'm going for 3 just for this demonstration. Hit OK. Show browser. We're on page 1. There we go. We're scraping. We're on page 2 now. Scrape. Page 3. Scraped. That took 16 seconds. Let's have a look at our log. Here's all the juicy URLs it's managed to scrape. See, so it's done page 1, it's changed the number to page 2, and it's logged it out, current page 2, scraped the new data, which is page 2 of Bing for that keyword, and then current page is then moved to 3, and we scrape all the links there to page 3. There you go. Now we need to check the database. So go to projects, show database, database manager, and there we go. We have 3 pages of Bing information of the URLs for the keyword help with back pain. Okay, I hope that's clear, guys. I know it can be quite difficult when you start using script logic. I'm just going to go over it one more time to show you, just to drill it in. I know it's a bit repetitive, but once you've learned this kind of thing, it's really easy to make some really good bots when you can understand the while statement and the if statement. So we load the bot. We excuse me. We make a variable in the toolbox, script logic, set variable called page counter. You can call it whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. Page counter sounds quite clear to me, and in that has the number 1. We're loading Bing, we're inserting our keyword, watch the previous videos for that, and then we're scraping our data and cleaning the data up. So again, that's done in the previous videos. Then after it's put the data into the database, again, we've already done that in the previous video, then it's moving on to the while statement, which again is under script logic, while, so it's here. And within that block, we've put to click the arrow button for Bing to move on to page 2, and then page 3 and 4 and 5 and so on. Click the arrow to move on to the next page, wait for that page to load, increase the page counter by 1. So we're then on page 2, log out that information so we can see what page number we're on. Then we have moved to a label that we've set up, and we set that up to start just before the loop. So now we're on, so what this while statement does is check what page we're on, move to the next page. If the page counter is under the amount of pages we want to scrape, then it's going to move us back up to the start of the loop to scrape the data again. And then again, it's going to scrape page 2, it's going to scrape page 3, and then when it gets to the while statement and checks now if the page counter is under the amount we want to scrape, which is 3, then no, it won't be under, it'll be equal to, so then it will come here and it will exit the bot. Okay guys, I hope that's been helpful. I hope you understand. Please guys, if you got any questions, come over to the Discord channel. I'll be happy to answer them. Leave a comment below if you don't if you don't want to join Discord, but I highly recommend you do. It's easy to set up. It's just, in my opinion, a much lighter version than Skype. Come and chat to us. Leave your comments in the description. If you haven't already subscribed, by the way, make sure that you do. Press that mother trucking bell icon so you get notified of when I release new videos, when I upload them, so you can follow along. Yeah, I hope this has been helpful, and I will create another video in this series tomorrow. And we'll continue. I think what's next is that we need to run this so that we do multiple keywords. So once it's finished the first keyword, we need to make sure that this bot then goes on to the second keyword and does the same action in the third and fourth keyword. And then I'm gonna show you about threads so that we can scrape more than one keyword at the same time to make this bot really fast and powerful. Then we're going to, I don't know after that, it depends on what you guys want to see. Yeah, so that's where we're at. I hope this has been helpful. From the next video, I'm going to start to give you access to the script, because it will be worth something. Then it'll be a lot for you to pick apart and learn from. Yeah guys, hope it's been helpful. Catch you in the next video. I'm off to make another coffee and start with some client work. See you later guys.